Get good press because we're a nonprofit, so we send out press releases.
Okay.
And we'll talk about, we have a need for a specific type of volunteer with these skill sets, this type of interest or experience. And that's how we're getting those unique kind of positions filled. We even had, for a while we were recruiting service coordinators, we call them. And they're basically like caseworkers who would go out and assess people's needs in their homes. So we were looking for people who had good assessment skill training and background. So again, through the press, we were able to do that.
That's an excellent question, and that was something that we thought a lot about. And I think the importance is to introduce it to the staff from the CEO level and upward management, that how they're coming in, that they're there to help, and also even before that to talk to everyone and ask them, what are your needs, what can't you get done, and where's the expertise that you're looking for, and that was the case for the marketing person.
I think it's the same way you would have a new employee come in. We see our volunteers like an employee, so we make sure that we do all the screening and they understand, we're all on the same page. They're signing a position description, they understand what the duties and responsibilities are. I mean, it's like an employee, and then we ask for feedback. You know, it's kind of, the staff, again, are a part of that process. So they know what they're getting into in terms of those volunteers and know the right questions to ask.
Well, I think you have to also not just make the match and then continue on, go back to the employee and also the volunteer. How is it going? What can we do to help support you? How is it matching your expectations? I think that ongoing dialogue really helps to immediately nip in the bud any issues. And sometimes staff have this idea that volunteer is a bad name if they've had a bad experience. So I ask them to tell me, what about some good experiences that you've had, and open your mind to the possibility that it could be really terrific. That's another reason why we call them ability experts, so they really understood this was different than anything they had experienced before.
I will say everywhere. It really depends on what they're looking for. It never works well if we mismatch. You know, if they're looking for a hands-on experience and we give them something behind the scenes. So it's really in that initial interview process of getting to know what is the desire and the motivation, as well as the background and skills, to make sure that they can fit into every level. Because we do still also have older adults that come in and say, you know, well, I did this my whole life. I don't want to do it anymore. Give me something where I don't have to make any decisions, don't have to think. But you know, we can't make those assumptions. We just really need to listen and find out. At Lincoln, it's a well-known policy, you know, that volunteers never replace paid staff. And so even though we are definitely looking at some challenges in the future having to our impact from the budget, we're looking at about a $40 million impact on our hospital budget, our network budget. But they don't look at it, they know volunteers are integral in helping us, but it will still be in that support or custom specific role, but it won't be, oh, we had to lay off 3 nurses, go find me 3 volunteer nurses. You know, it's just not part of our operation at all, that we would not replace the paid volunteers with paid staff.
Every year we have a recognition that's underwritten by a local company or whatever, and we usually have like a brunch. We just had one recently. We do a lot of, it's more hugs and kudos, and our staff just naturally are always thanking our volunteers throughout the year. It's not just a one time. We give, sometimes we'll get like batches of baseball tickets from APS or different, we make sure that volunteers are included in that distribution of those kinds of things. So any way that we can, and depending again on the volunteer, there are some volunteers over the years that are very motivated by getting their name in the press or that kind of thing. So knowing your volunteers is important, because then you can do things that kind of turn them on.
Right.
Great question for this week, since it is National Volunteer Week. So there's, we do everything from the formal event, you know, of recognizing contributions and hours of service, as well as years of service, to the day-to-day, that is really a key critical piece, is the relationship that you have with the volunteer on an ongoing basis. And really always looking for different opportunities, you know, like baseball tickets or other group events, and often it's something even more subtle. It's in that day-to-day, rather than the thank you and the appreciation. It's asking for their input to ensure that they are included in the team, that they're always a part of the organization, not just, oh, well, when you can come help. You know, it's including them in the thought process ahead of time.
We started our volunteer management with a piece of a person's job, which she never could really get to that, and we recognize that, and that's why this opportunity was so great with MMSS. And so then we actually had someone come on board with the AmeriCorps, who was the HR person who set up the program. Didn't have to reinvent the wheel, a lot of things she already did. And now we have reorganized ourselves again, and we have it as part of our education department, because that person coordinates the front line as well as other volunteers. So it depends on the situation. Of course, we link to the city and have utilized some of their services, but now we just keep an eye on where we can integrate it. It just depends on your situation. And if you can get a volunteer person, that's great. But sometimes, as with Sandy's case, she was there for a year and made a huge difference, but I also know it's that ongoing relationship that's so important.
And, you know, I'm fairly well blessed at Johnson Lincoln to also have staff in both of our facilities and for our desert mission programs to help facilitate that, because we do all of our own screening, the recruitment, the screening, the retention, the recognition. But I would say that it's also engaging volunteers in that process. You know, there are people bringing those skills to us, you know, that are great interviewers, or can be a great liaison between staff and other volunteers, you know, be that intermediary for us to be able to, since we can't be in every place all the time, to be able to reach as many people as possible and be a great connector.
I think for me, because the organization I'm in has many layers to it, because it's not just the standalone, it's part of the city and it's part of the art and culture department, was really getting everyone in the whole organization to understand, not the whole city, but in all of arts and culture. Because we had a staff department meeting, and they really had difficulty understanding what the new volunteer situation was about. So it was really in the very start, just getting everyone's buy-in and really spending the extra time for them to understand what it meant, showing them the job description of an ability expert and saying, but, you know, we're going into new territory, so there's unknown. So it's okay that it's unknown, just keep the dialogue going, and that really helped, I think, a lot.
I do think it's about flexibility, and at a time when that was occurring for us, financially, you know, we have these moments that we're expanding and then we're contracting and that kind of thing. And so I think at that time people were very open to saying, hey, we want to get this done. We have this vision. Our board sees where we're headed, where we want to go. How are we going to get there with the resources that we currently have? And knowing that we have all these wonderful resources around us, why wouldn't we involve them in a more capacity building arena? So,
Linda, do you have any comments, or have you always been in this stage of?
Yeah, for us it's just been in our volunteer program from what was existing and kind of very traditional roles of just continuing to think outside the box and to listen to our volunteers as they would come in, to hear that, you know, well, I don't really want to do that, but I'm thinking more about doing something more engaging, you know, or, you know, I'd like to utilize the skills and experience I have, and being open to that, which hospitals sometimes are very traditional in how they function, and not everybody is open to making that change. And so I think it was just something that we really recognized early on, that for us to continue to grow and thrive as an organization and a volunteer program in that organization, that we would have to change, that we would have to continue to evolve as well.